Good morning, Earthlings. How you doing today? Welcome back to the show. Josh Poet with you here for a new week, new opportunity to share information with somebody new. So if you're new to the show, welcome. All right, at the beginning of every show, we always do the date for today according to the Dream Spell calendar. The Dream Spell calendar is the Mayan calendar, kind of with a few things, few twists added to it, like the cosmic science. The date for today is called the Yellow Magnetic Star. Yellow Magnetic Star. So we got the yellow is the color of ripening. Magnetic tone, it's tone number 1. It's the first of the 13 tones. And the magnetic tone is all about attracting. It's about purpose. Then you got the symbol for today, which is the star. The star is all about beauty and elegance. And because today is a one-tone day, the guide and the daykin are exactly the same. It's like that on the 1s, the 6s, and the 11s. And the phrase for today is I unify in order to beautify, attracting art. I seal the store of elegance with the magnetic tone of purpose. I am guided by my own power doubled. On the Gregorian calendar, it is Monday, August 29th, 2011. So that catches you up to speed with our date. We got a lot of news today, a lot of UFO sightings and information to get to, so let's not waste any time. Before we do that, we're going to jump ahead to our little expose for this week. Now, 9/11's coming up. We all know that. What are we going to have happen on 9/11? Not quite certain, but it should be something that we should all pay attention to, because you never know what the powers that be have in store for the mere earthlings down here on the planet, right? They always have some sort of craziness, and we're going to have to wait to find out. But they are already beginning by portraying on TV their stories about 9/11, and George Bush interview was on last night, and then they're going to be doing more interviews and more stories just to kind of hammer home the point that these hijackers did the job. Well, that doesn't really settle for all the Americans who have spent 10 years researching and know the fact that none of that is true. That being said, in the mornings this week I'm going to be playing Blueprint, or 9/11 Blueprint for Truth. I think it's one of the really good ones that's out there. It's Richard Gage, AIA, talking from an architect standpoint and just going down the list, and all you'll see. If you haven't heard this, you're in for a treat. And if you have heard this, well, it's going to reiterate some information that you already heard before and that you know. So without further ado, let's get to it. 9/11 Blueprint for Truth.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I am so excited to be here tonight. My name is Richard Gage, AIA. I've been a practicing architect for 20 years, and I'm a member of the American Institute of Architects. I became interested in the World Trade Center high-rise collapses on 9/11 after hearing the startling conclusions of a reluctant 9/11 researcher, David Ray Griffin, on San Francisco Bay Area's KPFA radio, Guns and Butter, with Bonnie Faulkner in March of 2006. This has changed my life radically and launched my own personal and professional quest for 9/11 truth, inspiring me to found Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth, which now numbers hundreds of architects and engineers who are demanding a real investigation into the destruction of these buildings. I'm employed with a San Francisco Bay Area architecture firm, which, by the way, has no affiliation with my work in 9/11. Like many other architects, though, I've designed numerous fireproof steel frame buildings in my career, including these $3 and $10 million gymnasiums and the day-to-day construction administration services for this $120 million high school in San Ramon, California. I'm now working on a $400 million project in Nevada with almost 2 million square feet of retail, parking structure, and fireproofed steel-framed mid-rise office space, with over 1,200 tons of steel framing altogether. I'd like to start by thanking each and every one of you for being willing to consider the very difficult subject of the destruction of the World Trade Center and its staggering loss of life on 9/11. Just as architecture and engineering projects are sometimes joyful, sometimes quite difficult, this particular project has proven to be extremely difficult. Not difficult in terms of reaching conclusions, but difficult in terms of the implications of those conclusions and finding people who are open-minded enough to be willing to hear the facts about these building collapses. Check out every fact that we point out, because it's extremely important that we know the whole truth about this event. After all, it served as the pretext for the invasion of 2 countries in which already over 1 million people have perished. Also as the pretext for the loss of many of our own cherished liberties here at home in the United States through recent legislation such as the Patriot Act, the Military Commissions Act, and the forthcoming Senate Bill 1959, the Violent Radicalization and Homegrown Terrorism Act, in which many of us can be named a terrorist and have no right to an attorney or trial by jury. Another 9/11 could happen again if we don't dedicate ourselves to finding out exactly what happened and why, and to bringing those actually responsible to justice. What do I mean it could happen again? Well, basically, we're promised another 9/11 by members of the Congress, the media, and the Bush administration, with official statements such as this: the next attack will make September 11th pale by comparison. A nuclear weapon in the middle of one of our own cities. A nuclear terrorist attack on the U.S. could be imminent. Weapon of mass destruction this summer or early fall. It'll be much bigger than 9/11. And Michael Chertoff, a gut feeling that attacks were imminent last summer without any evidence or facts suggesting that. These are among the many reasons that we must peer into the painful part of our recent history and to re-examine the relatively new physical evidence from 9/11 which we have not seen in the mainstream media, and to find out why, for instance, a 2006 poll by the New York Times and CBS reveals that 28% of Americans believe that the Bush administration is lying, and not just about Iraq, but about the events of 9/11. And Time magazine reporting that 36% of Americans consider it likely or somewhat likely that government officials either allowed the attacks to be carried out or carried them out themselves. And an even more recent poll from Zogby in 2007 finding 51% of Americans want Congress to probe the president and the vice president about 9/11. Of even greater concern, another poll that year by Scripps Howard, Ohio University, which found that a shocking 16% of Americans believe that the World Trade Center Twin Towers were brought down by explosives. NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, claims they found no evidence for explosive demolition at the Twin Towers. Later, they admit that they never looked for it. How can you find what you are not looking for? Well, architects, engineers, scientists, and many others looked for it, and it was not hard to find. We've been speaking about it for 2 years now in over 36 cities, in a dozen states, and in Canada. We're proud to be a part of the international 9/11 Truth movement, which is growing by millions every year. We now have hundreds of architects and engineers for 9/11 Truth demanding a real investigation. This is our website. You can find on the right side the bullet points of information that we're going to be going through today. It's ae911truth.org. On the left side, you'll see the PowerPoint. You can step through it at your own pace because you may not have time to follow and read all the text and absorb the information that we're rapidly going to be going through. You can also watch the DVD on the left side, and you can purchase the DVD, of course, online. You can sign the petition after you find yourself convinced that this evidence is something worth looking at. Let's get something clear from the start. The ever-growing number of architects and engineers for 9/11 Truth are not conspiracy theorists. We're building and technical professionals looking at the science-based forensic evidence in the destruction of these high-rises on 9/11. As Joel Hirshhorn, PhD, says, first, let the technical truths emerge. Then, if necessary, cope with the inevitable conspiracy and other questions. Tonight, we're presenting to you the technical truths, the evidence found for the explosive demolition of all three World Trade Center high-rise collapses on 9/11, the iconic Twin Towers and the mysterious Building 7. 9/11. Just the utterance of it brings us right back to the terror-filled morning. We were subjected to these shocking attacks, killing thousands of Americans, destroying cultural icons. The 6 years has given us time to step back and examine these events more objectively, to step back from the shock-induced trance, really, to evaluate the relatively new evidence that's only come out in the last couple of years, and to re-examine these three high-rise collapses more objectively. Let's begin with an overview of the events of that morning in order to start us off on the same page, looking at the jets and the impacts and how this myth developed.
On September 11th, we learned that 4 passenger planes were hijacked and taken radically off course. Within an hour, 2 of the planes had flown into the enormous steel towers of the World Trade Center, creating fires and eventually toppling them. Dazed by the news, the American public soon believed the fires in the towers had burned so hot they caused the steel frames of the buildings to give way. A myth developed, fed by official sources through the media to a bewildered audience.
So when it was attacked again, he immediately...
Elements of the myth. The impact of the airplanes, gallons of burning jet fuel, steel melting, the buildings failing and suddenly imploding. In a mere 10 seconds, 110 stories hurtled earthward, pulverizing into dust. Right from the start, on the street itself, the official story was born.
Come out of nowhere and just scream right into the side of the Twin Tower, exploding through the other side. And then I witnessed both towers collapse, one first and then the second, mostly due to structural failure because the fire was just too intense.
What if our government was responsible for some of the greatest crimes against this nation? Would you really want to know? These are big questions, but these questions deserve answers. It's time to demand the truth.
People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of people.
9/11 was an inside job. Kennedy was killed by the CIA. Jimmy Carter saw a UFO. Answers to secrets you need to know. So wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. The evidence is overwhelming. Step past your fear, take a look.
reduce them under absolute despotism. It is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Patriots arise. It's time to demand the truth.
This is the UFO News with Joshua Poet.
All right, Dirk, thank you very much. This is the UFO News for today. I've got a couple of good stories for you here. Let's start things out in California. Atwater, California, second UFO spotted, reported in 4 days. A second UFO sighting from the Atwater, California area was reported August 28, 2011, where a witness describes a light with changing colors fluidly between red, gold, green, amber, while the object was changing shape according to the testimony from the Mutual UFO Witness Reporting Database. The witness was outside when a bright red light was first seen. The falling red light, of course, drastically began ascending and descending back and forth in rapid succession, all the while continuously changing color and shape, the witness stated. The colors varied, first red, then green, then gold, and possibly even blue. The object transitioned from one color to another with absolute fluidity. The object also changed shape. So that was in Atwater, California. I don't have any pictures from it. Well, let's take a look here, see if we got a picture here. Alright, doesn't look like, just a big picture of the tower, just to showing us the name of the city, which we all know. So, alright, there you go, Atwater, California. Moving right along, over New York, before the hurricane took place, there were some sightings. It says August 26, as Hurricane Irene approaches New York City area, a witness driving through the Manhattan area was able to capture a UFO, several UFOs hovering above the city skyscrapers. Let's take a look at these here. See what you think about this. First one here. Alright, just got a couple of bright lights in the sky. And a confused onlooker. Alright, there's one. And let's take a look at the other one here. This was over Bronx. Comes to us from Sheila Aliens. Alright, this was the 26th. Alright, there we go. We got a Alright, there we go. We got a couple lights. Probably looks like kind of the similar to what the other ones we're seeing. Alright. New Yorkers and out there very excited about the UFOs they're seeing. Here we go. Irene. Hurricane Irene weekend. Spike in multiple UFO sightings. This comes to us from Roger Marsh at the Examiner. It says Hurricane Irene weekend saw a spike in multiple UFOs reported over 4 states after witnesses in New York, Michigan, Nevada, and Washington filed August 28, 2011 reports with the Mutual UFO Network Reporting Database. A Lockport, New York witness reports 20 to 25 bright yellow objects in the sky beginning at 8:50 p.m. on the 27th of August. Case was number 31257 if you want to look it up. The sky was cloud-free and the weather was calm, the witness stated after seeing the first object. It was then followed by up to 20 to 25 more of the same type, all of which appeared to travel together in a line from east to west, where they seemed to vanish in the distance. They were extremely interesting in the way that they looked and the way that they traveled. They did not travel in a distinct formation, but appeared to be a loose traveling group moving along fairly quickly. They appeared to hover, slow down, speed up, and change direction at will, all while traveling in an east-west line. The event lasted about 5 to 10 minutes. Then it says that a Michigan witness was driving at 10 p.m. on the 27th when multiple objects were seen in the distance, causing the driver to pull over. The witness stated that 21 objects were moving overhead, northeast to south. Then we go over to Vegas. We had 7 to 8 red-orange objects moving over the southern part of the town, the west side. Alright, so lots of UFOs over the hurricane area. Our next story comes to us from extraterrestrials-aliens.com. It says possible scenarios with humanity's first contact with extraterrestrials. Well, you have first contact every day with extraterrestrials here on the show, and it's gone pretty good for you, right? So we'll just assume it's going to continue to go good as you continue to meet others of us. Is that the right way to phrase it? Others of us? I think it is. Alright, it says possible scenario for humanity's first contact with extraterrestrials. Generally, in humanity's history, we can logically say that our contact with any extraterrestrial intelligence has come, but if first contact would happen, it's going to be big news. What humanity is not certain is whether the news will tell that aliens or extraterrestrials are here to solve our problems, or will they turn out to be hostile to the entire species. A group of scientists from NASA's Planetary Science Division and Pennsylvania State University provide their thoughts on possible scenarios on what would be the news if humanity's first encounter with aliens might or might not happen at all. First scenario: extraterrestrials ignore us because they have a policy not to respond to us. It is also possible that they do not communicate with us because they think humans are but a low-class species. Second scenario: aliens might have contacted us, but their messages are not fully understood or decoded. Many think several extraterrestrials contacted us, but we fail to understand their signals. If we find out what aliens do exist, it will massively change our philosophy from science to religion. Knowing the fact that extraterrestrial beings exist somewhere else is a reason to reevaluate our existence. Next scenario says that if the possibility extraterrestrials will help us solve our problems given the fact that they are more advanced than human beings. There's a greater choice that aliens are cooperative, since it is difficult to expand into space if these aliens are not cooperative. They could provide us insights as to how to avoid technological tragedies such as climate change or nuclear war. Another scenario is that aliens will attempt to destroy us, but we can successfully defeat them, maybe because our technology that the extraterrestrials do not have, or maybe some environmental factors would destroy the aliens. There's also a possibility that another ET would come rescue us. And the sixth scenario is that extraterrestrials are annoying or boring. Maybe most of us think aliens are more intelligent or more advanced than humans, but there's still no certainty of that. They might show our planet as refugees needing to help with much to offer in return. And the seventh scenario is that aliens will eat us. Under certain fact, then everything has to eat something else. Humans will be an ideal source of extraterrestrial beings. Nutrition, since we are high up in the food chain and have an intellect to take good care of ourselves. Other possible scenarios are that aliens will enslave us, will steal our resources, will destroy the earth for the greater good, kill humans for being a bad species, or kill humans by accident, or kill them because they are capable to do so, like the way humans kill dolphins for food, sport, or research study. There's also a possibility that extraterrestrials manipulate humans to kill each other. Other scenarios are that aliens are intentionally or unintentionally hiding from us, and maybe extraterrestrials are not really there at all. A lot of possibilities, as you can tell. And the last story here says UFO sightings may point to other Earths, while extraterrestrial life seems closer. It says a true Earth might be revealed soon, while astronomers also expect to find other warm, wet, rocky worlds teeming with life in what's been called the discovery of alien Earths by the dozens within the next few years, states a leading astrobiologist. The Roman poet Lucretius believed in other worlds and other parts of the universe, with races of different men and different animals. Also, ancient Native Americans who settled in this region of the central Oregon coast of the Stonefield Beach pointed to another Earth in the sky. Leaders in astrobiology who studied the native peoples in this region said they believed that the true Earth twin might be revealed soon. And in the book Strange New Worlds, The Search for Alien Planets, renowned astronomer Ray J. Adwahana, a professor and Canadian research chair in the observational astrophysics at the University of Toronto, states that the discovery soon of other Earths will trigger paradigm shifts not only in science, but also in many other human endeavors from the arts to religion. Now there seems to be a bit more to this article here. We'll have this link available to you to be at our website. I think the sites might be down, so if it is, be patient. As soon as it is on the right hand side, you'll see the link for the UFO news and you can follow that. So what do you think about all of these sightings going on out there? Quite a few. And this one here is a very important one. What are the possible scenarios? You know, are they here to attack? Is ET going to attack? Is that what this is all about? If you really think about it and think about the possibility that there are multiple races that are up there, then you have to take into account that some of these races might be bad, while some might be good. Chances of them all being bad doesn't exist, because there's channeled information that has come down from extraterrestrial sources through contactees for many, many years. Good information. Beings that want to help this planet. Those that want to hurt the planet, well, the information is not quite as numerous, but it relates more to the stories of the reptilians, who are already here on Earth, and the Greys, who are already down here on Earth. So the possibility that maybe the beings that want to hurt Earthlings are already down here, and the ones that are up there are just kind of waiting to see when they need to come down and kind of take action. I'm sure that there's a lot of concern on the ships, really looking at the silly humans and all the things that are going on down here on this planet, the way people are killing themselves, the planet's destroying itself because of all the stupidity that humans do, so on and so forth. It will be very interesting to find out, and I'm sure it's going to happen in the very near future. So stay tuned for all of that. Alright, that's our UFO news for today. I'm going to jump away for about a minute, and then I will be back, and we're going to continue on with some more news and information. So stay tuned. This song here is called Confirm or Deny. Enjoy. I'll be right back.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum. Oh, shit.
Bases that are secrets here. We're not supposed to know where they come from or where they go. And if you ask our leaders today, this is what they will say. I can neither confirm or deny. I can neither confirm or deny. I can neither confirm or deny. What's up with their lives?
Alright everybody, and I'm back. Let's continue on. What do we got here? We got space weather. Let's find out what's going on in our space weather for today. Now the space weather is very important to keep on top of, because what it includes are things like solar flares. Solar flares are very important to us. We should know what's going on with them, because these solar flares affect the electromagnetics of the planet. They affect the heat of the planet. There's a lot of things that are going on. So when you get to the space weather site, let's see what it shows here. Talks about slight chance of auroras. This is because of the effects of the solar flares when it hits the magnetic field. There's an article here, Weekend Comet Show. You can kind of see what's going on. Let's play a little bit of this. You can check it out. Alright, then again, it's not going to do it so easily, so. But this is a story I wanted to show you down here. says. No, not the Hurricane Irene. Let me bring you the right story. All right, this story right here talks about these things called red sprites. I bring these up because in a few minutes I'm going to show you a story, and this is kind of contradicts what they're saying here. These red sprites, they say they're high above the earth in the realm of meteors and non-translucent clouds, a strange and beautiful form of lightning dances at the edge of space. Researchers call the bolts sprites. They are red, fleeting, and tend to come in bunches. Martin Popek of Nidek in the Czech Republic photographed these specimens on August 27th. This was just over the weekend. And goes on to say sprites are a true space weather phenomena. Explains lightning scientist Oscar van der Velde of St. Vincent de Castellet, Spain. They develop in midair around 80-kilometer altitude, growing in both directions, first down then up. This happens when a fierce lightning bolt draws a change from the cloud near the Earth's surface. Electric fields shoot to the top of the Earth's atmosphere, and the result is a sprite. The entire process takes about 20 milliseconds. Although sprites have been seen for at least a century, most scientists do not believe they existed until after 1989, when sprites were photographed by cameras on board the space shuttle. Now, sprite chasers routinely photograph sprites from their own home. I used a Waltech 902 H2 Ultimate Security Camera with UFO capture software to capture my sprites. Now, the reason I show you this is, let me jump to this other story right now to show you. There was a sighting that took place in the sky. And here we go. This was seen over Auckland, and it was also seen over Mexico. Now you tell me if this looks like a sprite, because this article came out after these videos were posted. Check this out.
Ahí estoy sobre la carretera y voy a hacer la aproximación.
Alright, now looking at this, could you say that that image in the screen there that you just saw, let me back up and freeze on this image. Okay, does that image look like this image? We got this image, and then we go to this. Remember when you were watching Sesame Street? One of these things is not like the other. One of these things doesn't belong. Remember from the time that kids are little, they're taught how to tell the difference between two objects? Does that object look like that object? The answer is no. Okay, we're not going to keep you in suspense because your two eyes kind of show you the truth, right? So for some reason, they got something to hide. They don't want to let the full truth out of what's going on. So the truth will be revealed. They can keep lying. People can keep paying attention. Notice that there are strange anomalies in the sky. Now, let's jump over to Hurricane Irene and talk a little bit about what went on there. This article comes from us from allthingsd.com. This was Eric Heshdal. It says Hurricane Irene is over. Power still out for many. What's left of Hurricane Irene, which technically no longer qualifies as a named storm, has now moved to eastern Canada. Residents of the eastern United States are waking up this morning to messes of various kinds. While New York City was largely spared, though Staten Island and Queens were whacked fairly hard, surrounding states, especially Connecticut and New Jersey, got a good thumping. As many as 700,000 people in Connecticut and 600,000 people in Jersey are without power in the wake of Irene, and many will go without power for as long as a week. Power outages in other states in no particular order. Vermont is reporting another 50,000 residents without power, and at one point or another, every single road in the state except for Interstate 90 and 91 were closed due to flooding. Another 700,000 are without power in Massachusetts. 160,000 are without power in New Hampshire. Power is out for 171,000 in Maine, and power is out for 284,000 in Rhode Island. Power outages are being addressed this morning in Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina, while another 20,000 or so are without power in the District of Columbia. Delaware has 39,000 without power, and a tornado touched down there. Pennsylvania, including the Philadelphia area, has about 400,000 without power. The total number of homes and businesses without power up and down the East Coast was in the neighborhood of 6 million. An estimated the cost damage to insurers conducted by Kinetic Analysis, a firm that predicts storm damage, is about 3 billion, down from an earlier estimate of 14 billion. The death toll so far is 25. Now there's a bit more to this article if you want to check it out on your own. But that was quite an interesting thing. I was following along over the course of the weekend, as I'm sure many of you were. I was reading on the forums and seeing the information that was coming out of these areas as the hurricane was going through. There was a lot of talk that the hurricane wasn't as strong as the media made it out to be. They said that the media seemed to blow it out of proportion, which is a curious way to look at it because it definitely brings in the idea about this being a false flag event. Now, how could this be a false flag event, you might wonder? This is the weather, right? Well, HAARP, H-A-A-R-P, creates weather scenarios. It can manipulate the weather. HAARP patterns can be seen in the radar that's available for you to watch right now, and for anyone around the world can go pull up the radar and watch it. And due to researchers out there like Dutch Sins and others, these anomalies such as rings, squares, and triangles have been pointed out so that the general public can really look at this in a greater capacity. And as this is going on, everyone is seeing that there's manipulation taking place. There are strange things happening in the weather, and certainly while the radar was being portrayed and shown over the course of this weekend, there were the typical squares and circles that were around, almost as if they were pushing the hurricane around. Now, why would they do something like this? I don't know. Is it possibly to clear out all the people from New York and from these areas? That's a possibility, because that's certainly what they did. Is this have any connection with 9/11 and the fact that that big 10-year anniversary of theirs is coming up? That's a good possibility as well. We need to pay attention because whatever happened is part of a bigger picture. I don't think it was just a random state of event that this came in. I think there's something more than meets the eye. As we connect the dots over the rest of the show, you might think so exactly. All right, moving on from this story here. Now, prior to these hurricanes, there were earthquakes. There were earthquakes in Colorado. There were earthquakes in Virginia. But something abnormal went on with this. These are just some sounds that took place before Colorado's earthquake. Listen to these, and you tell me what you think. Alright, did you hear that? Those loud booms, explosions. This took place a couple hours before the earthquake happened out there in Colorado. So, did this have anything to do with it? Kind of strange that those would go on. And you would think if there were big explosions like that, it might certainly have some effect and consequence in what's taking place out there. Alright, the plot thickens. Here's an article that says, this from the Atlantic. How did so many people feel a 5.8 earthquake in Richmond, Virginia? And there we go. Let's get to the article here. It says people from South Carolina to New York to Akron, Ohio felt an earthquake that struck near Richmond, Virginia this afternoon. It was a rare earthquake for the eastern seaboard and a rare kind of earthquake in general. The Virginia quake struck at a depth of just 6 kilometers. That's unusual, as the plot above shows. Note its logarithmic scale on the vertical axis. Most strong quakes occur deeper in the Earth's crust. The depth of a quake has a direct relationship to how intense humans at the surface perceive its shaking to be, although that depends on a lot of other things too. Still, relative to a deeper quake, this 5.8 magnitude tremor was felt more strongly than you'd expect. But there's something else going on too. At first, I had the West Coast native thought that perhaps it wasn't actually far from Richmond to New York, and it was the weird perception of the East Coast distances that made it seem a long way. But then I mapped the distance between Richmond and New York, and it turns out that it's a little further than San Francisco to Santa Barbara. It'd be one strange quake that hit San Francisco that left buildings in LA metro area seriously shaking. That backed up more data too. The USGS maintains a website called Did You Feel It? It crowdsources perceived earthquakes intensity data. The Virginia quake has a very interesting graph. The intensity stayed well over hundreds of kilometers. Compare those numbers with yesterday's Colorado quake. I should note that the depth doesn't fully explain these numbers. The Colorado quake was even shallower than the Virginia one, which means that some other geological factors account for the long distance effect. That's probably because East Coast crust is older and colder, which makes it a more efficient transmitter of seismic energy. Of course, these are still guesses. Every earthquake is different in precisely how it manifests. Earthquakes intensities are determined by the acceleration of the Earth in all three dimensions. In fact, if you record the X, Y, and Z motion, you can play back historical earthquakes on a shake table in places like Pacific Earthquake Engineering Research Center. And here's a grid, or a graph, that shows some differences. See if this blows up here. Alright, you can see here's a graph. Shows the intensity and the distance that this quake traveled. And we've got over here this one in Colorado, so you can kind of see that they both had a good intensity, and the distance they traveled was a little bit different. Okay, alright, so let's move along. This now ties into the story. Russian reports nuclear explosions hit vast U.S. military network. A frightening foreign military intelligence directorate report circulating in the Kremlin states that over the past nearly 48 hours, the vast intercontinental military network complex constructed by the United States Air Force over the past nearly 45 years was hit with two powerful nuclear explosions in its main terminals in Colorado and Virginia, used nearly exclusively by the Central Intelligence Agency. According to this report, the unprecedented nuclear attack began on the evening of the 22nd of August when one of the main air pressure relief tunnels for the CIA tunnels located at MacDill Air Force Base in Tampa, Florida, was forced open, allowing millions of cubic feet of air to rush suddenly into the atmosphere. The unique sound of this event was captured by video during a baseball game being played at Tropicana Field near MacDill, though U.S. officials blamed the mystery noise on the faulty sound system. This report, however, points out that Russian engineers are well acquainted with this unique sound, as they work feverishly to prepare additional 5,000 bomb shelters ordered by Prime Minister Putin this past spring to be completed by the end of 2012. Russian engineers were also able to duplicate this unique sound this past March when they were called into Ukraine to vent a number of deep underground tunnels from poisonous gas that had killed 3 people near Kiev, which was likewise captured by video. As you can see, the article goes on. You can find it over at The Nation. So, we've got the possibility of nuclear explosions, And in the area that's maintained by the CIA. What do you know about that? We've never had this kind of strangeness before, have we? Where someone in the military or the CIA was somehow connected with these problems. This is new. These things don't... Oh, wait, these things happen all the time. Never mind. Scratch that. I temporarily forgot that the U.S. likes to target its own citizens. Now here's something that we need to look at. 6 anomalies with the Virginia quake. This is over at Intel Hub. Interesting thing about Intel Hub, if you go to their site here and you try to click on the little Facebook icon to be able to post their articles, you're not able to do so. Facebook is censoring Intel Hub because Intel Hub's articles are a little bit too much truth for the CIA-operated Facebook. So, and if that's new to you, that CIA is behind Facebook, then sorry to bring you this moment of shock, but that's the truth of the matter. Alright, this comes to us from the Activist Post, presented here at the Intel Hub. Says, my first thought upon hearing the news of the rare 5.9 magnitude earthquake in Virginia this week was that it was not a natural occurrence. After all, no one has ever felt or heard of such a powerful tremor happening in this area in a lifetime. As is usual for my cynical interest, I hope that I was wrong. However, several anomalies indicate that something is not normal with the Virginia quake. First, I spent a lot of time in the Ring of Fire zone and have experienced numerous earthquakes. By no means does this make me an expert, nor scientifically qualified to analyze earthquakes, but as enthusiasts, we look up every earthquake we felt over a 5-year period, size, epicenter, location, depth, and so on, and got a general sense of the placing, how it felt relative to the official data. I can categorically state that of the dozens or so earthquakes that I've experienced, including a powerful 6.2, all of them started gently. None of them were over 50 miles away, and all had depths of several kilometers, and that the big ones seemed to have multiple aftershocks reported. Again, I say this as an observer, not as a scientist, and I'm only providing this background simply to qualify my immediate skepticism. Furthermore, curiously, the Great Virginia Quake of 2011, unprecedented in size and scope, should have grabbed the media headlines and discussion for weeks, but Hurricane Irene has all but wiped out the earthquake off the weather map. Now, even after the storm measurements for Irene show that it will likely be a minor nuisance, maybe some flooding and power outages, multiple states of emergency have been declared, mandatory mass evacuations ordered, and the media is all too eager to spread the panic. You'd think the East Coast of the United States was being invaded. Feels like a distraction or perhaps a large but manageable live drill of some kind to make heroes out of our politicians and FEMA look like a successful agency. In this manic and surreal coverage of Irene is a deliberate distraction. The anomalies regarding the recent earthquake may have provided sufficient motivation for doing so. Not to discount the establishment catastrophes that they want to distract from all of this critical time, like the crumbling economy, record political disapproval, and the bungled invasion of Tripoli, but if any discussion about the unusual nature of the earthquakes was allowed, one must ponder if some sort of manipulation was also involved. The establishment will not permit such talk apparently, hence the rapid about-face of earthquake coverage. Here are 6 anomalies about the Virginia quake that should warrant further investigation. Alright, let's check these out. First of all, location. The location is the most obvious anomaly for such a powerful quake. Although the area of the U.S. where the quake initiated sits on the edge of an ancient tectonic plate called the Creighton Plate, it is considered a relatively dormant or settled area. In other words, it's not a very active earthquake zone. Therefore, any noticeable earthquake is unusual, let alone a 5.9 monster that was reportedly felt 500 miles away. Furthermore, if one is inclined to believe that earthquakes can be manipulated, the epicenter occurring close to Washington, D.C. raises some suspicions. Admittedly, that's conjecture, but considering the following oddities, it might be more believable by the end of this article. Next, it says that unusually shallow depth. The initial hypocenter, or depth, of the quake reported by the establishment media was, wait for it, only 0.1 miles, or about 520 feet. That's right, the depth was certainly 525 feet. The Pentagon, the U.S. Capitol, and the monuments in the nation's capital were all evacuated after the 5.9 magnitude quake, which was shallow with its epicenter only 0.1 miles. The depth was later adjusted to be more believable, 3.7 miles beneath the surface. Still, shallow focus quakes usually only occur in areas abundant in seismic activity, like the Ring of Fire, and the depths of those shallow focus earthquakes are usually in the tens of kilometers deep. The Earth's crust in the eastern United States, where the fault zones are more heated, is described by CBS News as older and colder than out west, which according to Wikipedia means it should have been a deep focus earthquake with a deep ranging from 300 to 700 kilometers, certainly not barely below the Earth's surface. The next anomaly is this one, odd seismograph reading. A reporter from Press Corps received an anonymous email from someone claiming to be the U.S. Air Force that stated the Virginia earthquake wasn't a natural earthquake and not a harpquake. The reporter was instructed to find seismograph of the Washington, D.C. area earthquake and compare it to the past earthquakes and seismic readings of alleged underground nuclear test by North Korea that resulted in a 4.7 magnitude tremor at the depth of 0. So here we go. And it looks like, is this a comparison? Alright, but you could definitely see something powerful hit and then trailed off. Okay, this is it in green, and this must be the other one from Korea. So you could see, like that, when there's a powerful burst, and then it trailed off. So Press Corps writes, the green lines indicate the blunt tremor that was felt in Washington, D.C., and the black lines are a transparent overlay of a normal earthquake seismograph from a PDF from Virginia Division Mineral Resource on Earthquakes. The file describes a typical naturally-occurring earthquake as, when a fault ruptures, energy is released in the form of seismic waves. The first waves to reach the Earth's surface are primarily P waves. Waves are compressional waves that travel at a speed of about 4 miles per second near the surface, faster as the depth increases. The next waves to reach the Earth's surface are secondary or S waves. They shear the waves that move at a speed at about 1.5 miles per second. P and S waves are body waves that travel through the Earth, much like sonar waves travel through water. Surface waves, which are slower than S waves, travel along the surface of the Earth, much like waves at the surface of an ocean. S waves and surface waves cause the most destruction on the Earth's surface. The next anomaly was the distance that it was felt. As my introduction stated, I've never felt an earthquake whose epicenter was further than 50 miles away. Of course, this doesn't mean it's not possible, as clearly this was felt upwards of 5 miles from the epicenter. And then remarkably low number of aftershocks. Amy Vaughn, a geophysicist with the USGS Earthquake Information Center in Colorado, told CBS News that for the size of earthquakes that occurred, I think the number of aftershocks so far has been remarkably low. And then instantaneously knocked Irene off course. Kevin Hayden and Glenn Kreisberg reported, coincidentally, the time frame leading up to the Virginia, D.C., New York area experiencing freak seismic activity. Hurricane Irene began to weaken and move off course, avoiding its initial path of Havana, inland Florida, the Carolinas, and eventually the Washington, D.C. area. The newly projected paths show that it may barely clip the eastern coast if at all, just as Ophelia did when it threatened the same region. Irene stalled and changed directions. Okay. So a few articles have speculated that HAARP earthquake weapons were to blame in conjunction with manipulating Hurricane Irene. Indeed, when one knows even the basic capabilities of HAARP, this does not seem too far-fetched. Press Corps seems to think the seismic data proves it was more similar to an underground nuclear detonation. One thing for sure, the mysterious characteristics of the Virginia quake seem to indicate it was not a typical earthquake. Definitely not a typical earthquake, indeed. Alright, now, let's take a quick look here. There's a site here, Southern Comet's homepage, talking about Comet Elenin, something very interesting about it. Where is this here? It's talking about Comet Elenin and how it is breaking up. Let me see, where was that here? 8th magnitude in process of disintegrating. Check this out yourself. Right, this one right here. C210X1 Elenin. In process of disintegrating. Will not survive perihelion. Low western evening sky. Okay? So according to what they're saying here, this thing is about to disintegrate. If that's the case, then what is all this nonsense that's going on? Well, for one thing, when Comet Elenin is going to be closest to the Sun, supposedly, it just so happens to be on September 11th. What a coincidence. So just before September 11th, we've got a comet heading towards the Earth. We've got an earthquake, possible nuclear explosion that happened underground there in the East Coast, and we had a huge hurricane that was blown out of proportion by the media and ended up being a small hurricane that hit the East Coast. All just before 9/11. And there's all kind of controversy going around there between not allowing certain religious denominations or any religious denominations be there, and then also not going to allow the first responders, the firefighters, to actually be there. So there's some problems. They're trying to divert something I say to pay attention, because what you're hearing here, this isn't normal. They're trying to tell you that this comet is going to come through and cause some major disaster on the 11th of September and then later on in this month. But according to this is disintegrating. If it's disintegrating, perhaps it's not going to cause any damage at all, and they're going to use September 11th as a date to use maybe the HARP machine to say that that's an effect from Elenin. It seems that this is going on and that they're using this Elenin to cover up other HARP-related incidents that are taking place. Just pay attention. That's all I can say. And the very last thing we're going to do right here is this is from Anonymous. It says Anonymous is going to occupy Wall Street. Let's listen to this.
Anonymous joins hashtag Occupy Wall Street. Remember, we talked about this a few weeks ago. This is an Adbusters campaign, and they're encouraging up to 20,000 people to occupy Wall Street, flood into lower Manhattan, occupy the spaces in front of the banks. And now Anonymous have joined.
Right, so they're going to set up tents like they have in the square in Athens or in the square in Tunis or in Cairo. They're going to try to occupy Wall Street. Now, we were just in New York. We visited Wall Street. There's a huge police presence there. It's a highly commercialized site with a lot of outlets for big brand names. Now, this sounds like it would be counter to those commercial interests. How many hours will this tent city be allowed to exist, do you think, Stacey Herbert?
Well, that's a good point because, yes, Wall Street is surrounded by barricades already to keep people out. Now, these protesters are suggesting that people bring barricades in order to keep, themselves in. So they're being kept out by the barricades that are already there.
Well, Anonymous is a very powerful organization, so maybe they'll add some juice. We'll see.
All right, so that'll be very interesting, but there you go. Here in the United States, the very things you have seen in other countries are being set up. You've seen these riots in Greece, you've seen these riots in Egypt, all around the world in different locations where they're having financial issues. Here it comes to a city near you. It's going to be in New York. We've had other, protests that have been taking place. You've seen them on the news. You've seen their version of what's going on. If you really want to know what's going on with the protests, don't pay attention to the mainstream media. They're going to lie to you. Go online. Look it up yourself. Look up live streams. If you hear about a protest, go to Google and Google whatever that city is and Google in live stream. And you will find some sort of live webcam out there that's streaming exactly what's going on, and you won't have to rely upon the mainstream to tell you. All right, here we are. Let's get to our very last bit of business for today, and that is our meditation. So I'd just like you all to close your eyes. I'm just going to take 2 minutes here, focus ourselves. It's a new week. I want you to imagine, first of all, that all your chakras are turned on. So from the bottom of your spine, let's activate them all. First one is your red chakra at the base of your spine. And imagine it drawing the energy from the earth, raising that energy up to the chakra above it, which is orange, and that's right at your belly button area. And then moving down through the center of your body, upward, just below your rib cage, imagine the color yellow. That is your chakra that deals with your intellectual body. Raise the energy up higher then, right to the middle of your chest where your heart is. Imagine the color green. This is the chakra of love. Raise the energy up higher to your throat chakra. Imagine the color blue. This is how you communicate with the world. Raise the energy up then to your third eye. Your third eye is right between your two eyebrows, just above the nose. This is how you see through dimensions of space and time. Imagine the color of violet. And then raise the energy to the top of your head, your crown chakra. Imagine the color indigo, and then allow the energy just to travel upward, connect with the cosmos as bright white light. And there you are connected above and below. Imagine your whole body overflowing with this energy. And as the energy overflows your body, imagine that you can see around you this line of light as this light flows from you. And this is your spiritual armor. So practice turning this on. When you're in crowds, practice turning it on. If you feel people moving in real close, imagine extending your aura out and watch. People will move away from around you. Your aura is a very powerful thing, and if you learn to work with it, you can learn to use it to protect your body. Now, simply want you to imagine from your heart that you send a beam of love right now all around the world. A green ray of love all around the world. Love to everyone on the planet. Love to everyone on the planet. And imagine that love is being sent back to you from everyone as well. Send this love down into the planet, for it needs this love and healing energy. And then send the love up into the cosmos. And now, as you're imagining and thinking of this love, I just want you to think good thoughts for the world. Good thoughts for everybody in the world. Let's just think positive. Just think positive. It really makes a difference, my friends. I know it sounds foo-foo, new age, just to say think positive, but you know what? It works. So if it works, use it. Do it. And as you're thinking those positive thoughts and sending out that love, keep yourself in that frame of mind, and let's just bring ourselves back to the present moment on the count of 3. 3, coming back to the present moment filled with confidence. 2, coming back to the present moment filled with faith. And 1, coming back to the present moment happy, healthy, and whole. Happy, healthy, and whole. And that, my friends, that is our meditation and our prayer for today. Go out into the world and enjoy your new week. Look upon the world with all the opportunities that is presented, and keep your eyes open to what's really going on out there. You know, truth will set us free, and the way we look at the truths is we just look at it and allow ourselves to understand it by being open-minded to the possibilities. There's a lot of good things going on in this world. Don't get caught up in all the nonsense of the bad things that are being told to you, because those things, bad things come and go. But good things, well, they're part of our destiny. They're part of our future. We're all going to make it there, my friends. We just got to hang in, and remember, we're all in this together. I'll be back tomorrow. It's been a pleasure talking to you. For Dirk Bradshaw, my name's Josh Poet. Talk to you soon. Good night. Peace.